Welcome to The Ghost of Real Estate. I'm your host, Tim Galligan, and on this episode, number 16, we have very special guest, Vinny Fundaro with Square One Professional Home Inspectors. Yes. Vinny, welcome to the show, man. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Of course, man.
Appreciate
My pleasure.
it.
How you doing?
Doing well. Very busy.
Good. Yeah, it's crazy out there, right?
Yeah, it really is.
I know. My team, myself, we're calling you, hitting you up, trying to. It's a fast-moving market, right?
It is. It is. You have to pick up that phone sometimes really quick, otherwise they'll just move on to the next inspector.
Yeah.
But it's definitely a faster-moving pace.
Cool. You want to tell the audience a bit how you got into home inspecting, what your background is and what you do?
In a nutshell, I'd say when I bought my house about 18 to 20 years ago, got a new job, purchased my house. I'm an operating engineer, a building engineer. I run a building in Manhattan, steam turbines, plumbing, heating, air conditioning, electrical. I kind of overlook all of that stuff. So the business I have right now, it's pretty much like a transferable skill. So I kind of slid into that, opening my own business. And I just like dealing with people. I like, educating them, showing them, the good things, the bad things when purchasing a home. Part B to that was one reason why I got into it. It's because it was like that transferable skill. I had that mechanical background. But when I bought my house about 18 years ago, of course I had to get it inspected. And I closed. When I moved in, I just found so many problems, asbestos tiles, a dust buster that was wired in one of my closets, my walk-in closets with lamp cord. It wasn't called out, just a whole bunch of things. And
this is after you closed?
This is after I closed. Right. And, I wasn't an inspector back then, but it was just kind of frustrating because me having that background in the house, I know electrical, I know plumbing and stuff, and it just raised so many flags, and I just got so annoyed how can you not see this?
Right.
In addition to aluminum wiring in the panel box. 100 amp panel was a 75. That's something that you should bring to my attention. So none of it was brought to my attention. Give the guy benefit of the doubt, but if it was one thing, two things, three things, there was always, it just kept adding up.
Right.
So at that point, I kind of opened my business and started, doing my own thing and, just educating people, especially like the first-time home buyer.
Yeah.
Just, they're in there with blinders, they don't see anything, and go in and I show them everything that I know, everything that I see, things that are issues, how to correct them, and I just enjoy it. I enjoy working with people.
Nice.
And educating them.
For sure.
So
when you're going into a home, whether it's first-time home buyer or not, what are some things that are critical that you might look for right away, and that people should have their eye on when looking at homes on their own?
It's a good question, but it's also a tough question because everything in a home inspection, for the most part, I look as critical. When I first walk to a house, you look at the whole overall house. We call it the envelope.
Right.
You want to make sure the siding is intact. You want to make sure there's no asbestos tiles, or you want to look at the grading, make sure, you kind of picture things like if it does rain, you want to make sure that the water flows away from the house, away from the foundation.
Yes.
And then you start to, look around and, make sure there's no cracks in the foundation. Again, it's a non-invasive inspection, so what you see, you just have to look at it very closely. If you see a crack in a big horizontal, vertical crack in the foundation, you have to find out, is this going to be an issue in the future? Can it be an issue in the future? Does it need to be caulked or plugged or what have you. As far as critical, mostly would be, the life expectancy of the boiler. A lot of people don't know boilers could last 30, 40 years as long as you take care of them. But, just like a used car, you take your car to a mechanic, you want to know, the car's nice, it's beautiful, but it's got 200,000 miles on it, how much longer is the engine going to last?
Right.
So it's kind of the same thing with the boiler, with electrical systems. Obviously structurally you want to make sure that the house, there's no shifting that all the windows open properly, there's nothing crooked. But it's, you just have to play investigator.
Sure.
You know?
So you mentioned, and I think there's a lot of thought or panic around the word asbestos. What exactly is asbestos?
As far as asbestos goes, we all know it was developed as, the best thing since sliced bread when it first came out. The space shuttle used it. It's a good fireproofing,
So
a
to
great
take
insulator.
it even a step further back from that, I think that people think asbestos is like a mold that grows on things, not that it's an actual material for, I'm telling you, this is what people have told me. That they think it's something that it grows on it, and if you breathe it in like a mold, that you're gonna die.
No, it's nothing like that. Like, for instance, asbestos tiles.
Right.
When I first bought my house, the inspector never told me there were asbestos tiles. Technically, you're not supposed to say that they are unless it's tested. But you look at every book or Google it, 9x9 tiles, for example,
Right, it's
contain asbestos. It's not the whole entire tile is asbestos. 5% of it can contain asbestos. But as long as you don't mess with it, chip it with a hammer or break it up, you don't have problems with it.
Right.
As long as you don't mess with it. The same thing with pipes. They're insulated plumbing systems that have asbestos on there. I would note that it appears to be asbestos. Recommend, have it removed or encapsulate it.
Right.
As long as you leave it alone, you shouldn't have any problems with it.
Right.
That's my opinion. But sometimes it's costly to remove asbestos.
remove the asbestos,
You
right.
have to encapsulate the whole house. You have negative pressure. They have to use HEPA filters. So it's a big process. But sometimes people just leave it alone. And I mean, that's why you're getting the house inspected. You want my opinion, I'm going to give you opinion. I'll lead you to the water. I can't really force you to drink it, but,
Right. Yeah.
I definitely would give you advice on what to do. You have options,
Right.
but they don't spew out any dust unless you kind of mess with it.
Right, unless you're cracking it or something.
Exactly.
Like that. Right. So in this market, like we touched on in the beginning, I mean, this is, it really has been a run for the past, whatever it is, a year or so.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen anything like this from an inspection standpoint?
No. I mean, ever since this COVID thing took over and it started slowing down because people were just not optimistic anymore. But I don't know what sparked it. I guess the interest rates have a lot to do with it. 2%, 2.5%. Your budget goes up with the interest rates go down.
Yeah, sure.
So you start to look at, instead of $500,000 house that you could afford a $700,000 house.
Right.
But it just started going crazy to the point where I couldn't even handle it anymore.
Yeah, busy as you've ever been.
Just very busy. It's a good problem to have.
Yeah,
but
for sure.
look, you can't help everybody.
Right. Cool.
So,
Now, when you're going into homes, you cover Nassau, Suffolk. You do the boroughs as well.
the boroughs, I do Manhattan, I do
Right.
the condo inspection, co-op inspection. All of that still has to be inspected.
Any nightmare stories you've ever come across? Houses falling down.
Well, there were a few multi-million-dollar homes that had some electrical issues.
Right.
$12 million homes that still have federated panels. As we know, federated panels, although then we're not supposed to say they're defects, but they're known to cause fires. The stab locks, they're known to not trip. And when
Right.
they don't trip, can arc cause a fire.
Right.
There's, when I see something like that, I write it up. I tell them you should pay attention to it. It should be addressed. Try not to scare them, but you have to tell them the truth.
Right.
On what the issues can be in the future.
Right.
So yeah, I pretty much all the boroughs I cover.
Cool. Now I know you've done, a ton of inspections for my team and I, and you're always very thorough on it. Comforting to the buyer. Like you said, the first-time home buyer as well too. Because they have the blinders on, not seeing everything. So a little bit about the inspection process. So you start with the outside. So you're on the roof. You always start on the roof. What are you looking for up there?
Well, I do stuff from the outside. Again, we look at the whole exterior of the house, the foundation, the grading, any exposed plumbing. We check the pressure
Yeah.
for the outside spigot, and then we just go outside and we look at the roof. Sometimes if we can't get to the roof with a ladder, We could use a drone, a pole camera, but
Right.
no matter what, we'll get pictures of it, and we'll give you feedback on it. Roofs typically, when you hear 30-year roof basically means 25 years.
Right.
But during those 25 years, you have sun can damage it. You have people walking on a roof. You have trees and things that rub up against it. You have granules that slowly deteriorate or come off the roof shingles, which slows the life expectancy. That happens. But if I see a roof that looks, of course, I wouldn't know the age of the roof, but I'd come pretty close.
Right.
But I asked the sellers, how old's the roof? 10 years old, 15 years old, and they'll tell me, once it's at that point where I think it's reaching its life expectancy, that's what I'll put down. Definitely budget for future replacement.
Gotcha.
Just try to give them his honest opinion. I'm not perfect. I'm not a perfect inspector, but I give him my advice on,
Now, they say like the most important part is going to be the basement, right? Foundationally.
I believe so. I mean, the whole overall house is very important.
Sure.
But again, I start from the outside, the roof, and then I start my way from the basement.
Right.
The challenging part with the basement is sometimes 50-50. Basements are finished, you can't see the joists,
Right.
you can't see the wires, you can't see the lolly columns, you can't see any other supports. Sometimes you can't see any foundation leaks. I use many equipment to assist me in determining if there's any flaws inside, any issues in the basement. Thermal imaging, leak detectors, moisture detectors, my eyes.
Right.
I do my best, but sometimes it's a non-invasive inspection, so you can't poke holes in the wall
Right.
to see if there's
Right.
any problems. So
Right.
it's a visual inspection. So
Awesome.
it's challenging at
Yeah.
that point.
No, I bet. A lot of you're seeing what you're seeing. You're getting a lot of questions from the buyers themselves.
Right.
A lot of questions from the buyers' parents. Right.
Yeah, that too. And of course we follow up with a PDF report and a whole
Right.
bunch of pictures. So
Cool. So Vinny, if anyone wants to reach out to you, wants to get in contact with you, hire you for an inspection,
Sure.
or just maybe even ask some questions, what's the best way for them to reach you?
you could call me, text me 516-242-9556. You could call or click my website, square1homeinspectors.com, and you could click on the links. I also do water testing as well, mold sampling, just pretty much everything you need to know before you make a buying decision.
Awesome. Vinny, thanks for coming on the show, man.
Thank you for having me. I
brother.
appreciate it as well. Thank you.